The Creator 17 from MSI is the first laptop with a mini LED screen, but what does this actually mean for content creators, and is it worth paying for? Let's find out in this detailed review. My configuration has an 8-core Intel i7-10875H processor, NVIDIA RTX 2080 Super Max-Q graphics, 32GB of memory and dual channel, and a 4K mini LED screen. It's got 2.5GB Ethernet, Wi-Fi 6, and a 1TB NVMe M.2 SSD for storage. But there are a number of different spec options though. You can find examples and updated prices linked in the description. Let's start out with the screen, as this is the most unique part of the Creator 17. It's available with 3 different 17.3-inch options. There's a 1080p 144Hz option, which would be better for gaming, a 4K IPS level panel, or the 4K mini LED panel, which is what I've got here. Basically, the way this mini LED screen works is there are 240 local dimming zones which are independently controlled instead of just one backlight, which should in theory reduce bleed, improve contrast ratio by offering deeper blacks, and allow it to get brighter. I've tested the mini LED screen with the Spider 5 and got 100% of sRGB, 85% of NTSC, 88% of Adobe RGB, and 96% of DCI-P3. So quite nice results for creators. At full brightness, we're looking at 983 nits, just shy of the advertised 1000 nit peak brightness. But either way, still a very bright panel for a laptop, and the contrast ratio was above most others I've tested at 1060:1. MSI notes that it's display HDR 1000 certified, so as a result of the high brightness, high color gamut, and local dimming zones, this panel is going to offer one of the better HDR experiences in a laptop today. There was no backlight bleed detected in this worst case scenario, but expect different results with the non-mini LED panel options. When looking at a dark screen and moving the cursor around, I wasn't really seeing any halo effect around the white mouse cursor, so the 240 local dimming zones appear to be doing a good job. The laptop is made out of aluminium on the lid, interior, and bottom. It's got a clean silver finish, and there are no sharp corners or edges. Despite the materials themselves feeling nice, the build quality seemed average. There was some chassis flex when pushing down hard, and although it was minor and wasn't an issue during regular use, it would make some creaking noises when flexed a little. MSI lists the weight as 2.5 kilos for the mini LED version I've got here, or 2.4 kilos for the IPS config, though mine was closer to the latter. With the 230 watt power brick and cables for charging, the total rises to under 3.3 kilos. It's not too big for a 17-inch laptop with this level of specs inside, and the screen bezels are 8.5mm on the sides. It was possible to open the lid with one finger. However, when doing this, I noticed that the laptop slid around a little on my desk, and found that not much force was required to make this happen. It seems to be due to the feet on the bottom, which are more of a hard plastic rather than grippy material. There was some screen flex when intentionally trying to move it despite the metal build. The hinges felt sturdy enough, however they appear to have a plastic exterior and aren't the newer design we saw in the GS66. The F12 key is a shortcut to flip the screen. Now, they've used this in other laptops where the screen goes the full 180 degrees back, but this one can't quite do that, so this feature may be less useful. The 720p camera is found above the display in the center, and it has IR for Windows Hello support, which I found to work quickly. This is what the camera and microphone look and sound like on the MSI Creator 17. The keyboard was alright to type with. It didn't feel as mushy as the engineering sample I used months ago, which is good, but still it wasn't anything special. Here's how it sounds to give you an idea of what to expect. It's got white backlighting which can be adjusted between 3 levels of brightness or turned off with the F8 shortcut key, or through the Creator Center software, and all keys and secondary key functions are illuminated. There are holes for ventilation towards the back, and the power button is back here too in the middle. I've got a problem with the touchpad. Well, the precision touchpad itself works fine, the issue is the placement. MSI has done wider touchpads on other machines and it's been fine, but it doesn't work here. Usually the touchpad needs to be centered with regards to the letter keys. As this laptop has a numpad, the touchpad should be over to the left a bit more, but instead it's right in the middle. This means that when typing, my right palm was constantly pressing the touchpad down. Now this wasn't actually a problem because the palm rejection ignored it, but triggering the clicks while typing got annoying and I was constantly paranoid about it. The touchpad also has a fingerprint scanner in the top left corner, and I found it to work quickly for unlocking the machine. Due to the silver finish, fingerprints and dirt don't really show up. It looks fine here, but this is after days of testing. On the left from the back, there's an air exhaust vent, power input, 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port facing the preferred way, USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A port, UHS 3 micro SD card slot. I would have preferred full size on a larger machine like this personally, and 3.5mm mic and headphone jacks. On the right from the front, there's a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C port with display output, 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A ports, another USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C port with display output. However, this one has Thunderbolt 3 too, HDMI 2.0 output, another air exhaust on this side too, followed by Kensington lock at the back. I confirmed that all three display outputs go directly to the Nvidia graphics, bypassing the Intel integrated graphics. So an external screen would boost gaming performance, and VR is possible. The back just has air exhaust vents towards the corners, and the front just has a status LED towards the right and a groove in the middle to get your finger in when opening the lid. Underneath has some air intake vents towards the back. The bottom panel was very easy to remove once taking out 15 Phillips head screws of the same size. Once inside, you'll see that the motherboard is unfortunately upside down like some of MSI's other designs. I was hoping that it would be the normal way for easier upgradability like the new GS66. We do get access to the 2 storage slots and Wi-Fi card at least, but you'll need to do some work if you want to upgrade memory. And it's worth noting MSI are using DDR4 2666 memory rather than the faster speeds Intel 10th Gen is capable of. The two 2-watt speakers are found towards the front on the left and right corners. They weren't great, a little tinny and muffled sounding, though they were able to get quite loud at full volume, and the latency monitor results were looking good. The Creator 17 is powered by a 4-cell 82Wh battery, which feels a little sad when the smaller GS66 gets the 99.9Wh battery. I've tested it with the screen brightness at 50%, which to be fair at 237 nits is still brighter than some others at high brightness, background apps disabled and keyboard lighting off. While just watching YouTube videos, it almost lasted for 4.5 hours, a below average result, though the result in gaming, so a GPU heavy workload, was fair compared to others. The Creator Center software also lets you set the charge level too, so you can prolong battery life by not keeping it consistently at 100% charge. You've also got the option of Type-C charging using the Thunderbolt port. The Type-C port closer to the front doesn't support it, but this does give you the option of traveling with a smaller power source or battery instead of the 230-watt brick. Just don't expect full performance in that scenario. Now let's find out how hot the Creator 17 gets and see if this causes any issues to performance. The MSI Creator Center software lets you select different performance modes, which from lowest to highest are silent, balanced, and high performance. And silent mode can further be broken down between silent and super silent. By default, undervolting is locked. However, if you press the Epic MSI cheat code in BIOS, you are able to unlock this. Thermals were tested with a 21 degrees Celsius ambient room temperature. Idle results down the bottom were a little warm, but okay. Otherwise, the worst case stress tests were done with the AIDA64 CPU stress test with CPU only checked, and the Heaven benchmark at max settings at the same time. So the goal is to smash both processor and graphics. The CPU was thermal throttling anytime it was at 95 degrees, so in most cases. No thermal throttling on the GPU though. Only the cooling pad was able to make a difference to temperatures, where the 2080 Supermax Q dropped by 5 degrees. These are the clock speeds for the same tests. In super silent, the speeds were very low, much higher in the regular silent mode. The GPU speeds don't change too much going up from here, but CPU clock speeds see decent improvements as we make changes. Processor clock speed doesn't change between balanced and high performance mode in this test, as thermals were the limit, which is why undervolting or using a cooling pad boost performance. PL1 is set to 70 watts and was never being reached, as thermals were always the limit for the processor. Outside of super silent, the 2080 Supermax Q had no issues running at its 80 watt limit. In a CPU only workload with the GPU now idle, we're able to reach much higher power levels. The 70 watt PL1 was just able to be reached with both an undervolt and cooling pad applied. Despite this, it's still running right on the 95-degree thermal throttle limit, and this was happening with high performance mode at stock too. The clock speeds are alright with the modifications, but nothing too impressive at stock when compared to others tested. Here's how the CPU-only workload Cinebench performs with these different modes. As expected, the scores increase as we step up through to higher modes. Here's how it looks in the areas where you'll actually touch. At idle, it was a little above the usual 30 or so I typically see, just a bit warm to the touch. With the stress tests running, it's now at the mid-50s in the center. Not quite hot, but getting there. In silent mode, it was similar despite the fans going a bit faster. Balanced mode and high performance mode were a bit cooler now due to the faster fans. Let's have a listen to how loud they get. At idle, even in the super silent mode, the fan was still audible with a tiny bit of coil whine. It wasn't much different with the stress test going in super silent mode. Silent was a fair bit louder comparatively and would constantly ramp up and down between 44 and 46 decibels, which was a little annoying. Balanced mode wasn't much louder, but at least the fan was more consistent. And then high performance was only a little louder still. MSI definitely seems to be prioritizing quite a fan noise here, which helps explain the thermal throttling in the tests earlier. But as we'll see next, the performance is still decent. Although the Creator 17 isn't designed as a gaming laptop, it does sell with a 144Hz screen option, and due to the hardware inside, it should do well if you want to kick back at the end of the day and play some games. So let's test it out. In Battlefield 5, I've got the Creator 17 highlighted in red. It's giving a decent result as expected. Despite being a laptop designed for creators, it's still got some good specs. And that translates to good gaming performance. These are the results from Far Cry 5 with ultra settings in the built-in benchmark. The Creator 17 was in the same position when compared to the same laptops. Again, quite a good result. In Shadow of the Tomb Raider, it drops down a little comparatively, but yeah, still on the higher side of the graph. Definitely no issues running any game at all on this hardware, at least at 1080p. It would be a struggle even with these specs in AAA games at 4K. Now for the benchmarking tools. I've tested Heaven, Valley, and Superposition from Unigine, as well as Firestrike, TimeSpy, and Port Royal from 3D Mark. Just pause the video if you want a detailed look at these results. I've used Adobe Premiere to export one of my laptop review videos at 4K, and the Creator 17 was giving me one of the better results out of the laptops I've tested so far. I've also tested Premiere, but with the Puget Systems benchmark, which also accounts for things like live playback rather than just export times. And this time higher scores are better, and the Creator 17 is more towards the middle of the pack. It was doing quite well in the DaVinci Resolve test. As this is a GPU-heavy workload, the 2080 Super Max Q seems to do quite well despite the 80-watt power limit. Adobe Photoshop was down a little, but still a fair result, and overall the Creator 17 with these specs certainly seems capable of creator-type workloads. I've also tested SpecViewPerf, which tests out various professional 3D workloads. I've used Crystal DiskMark to test the storage, and the 1TB NVMe M.2 SSD was performing quite well. The UHS 3 microSD card slot was basically maxing out my card, and it sits most of the way into the machine. For updated pricing, check the links in the description as prices will change over time. At the time of recording, in the US, the Creator 17 starts at $1,800 though no mini LED with this one. The higher spec config I've tested here is around double the price, though there's a lower spec version with the mini LED screen for $500 less. Meanwhile, here in Australia, we're looking at 5,000 Australian dollars for the entry-level model with 2060, while the specs I've tested here are almost $7,000, so pretty expensive to get mini LED. With all of that in mind, let's conclude by looking at the good and bad aspects of the Creator 17 laptop and see if it's worthwhile. The Creator 17 sounds good on paper, but there are a few too many issues that would prevent me picking this machine for the price. Although the all-metal build looks good, and for the most part feels pretty solid, it just creaks when opening the lid or moving it around. I don't know, it just doesn't really come off as premium. The center location of the touchpad results in it physically clicking down while typing, though palm rejection was good. This could be solved by moving it over to the left, but I guess the middle looks more pleasing aesthetically, which I assume is what they were going for. The upside down motherboard makes it more difficult than others if you want to upgrade memory, but at least the other components can be accessed easily, and the speakers weren't good. The battery life wasn't amazing, but the option of Type-C charging is nice to have. The idle fan noise wasn't pleasant, and it got quite warm under load, but many of these creator-orientated laptops preference lower fan speed over optimal performance. It's not all bad though. MSI at least let us undervolt should we wish. A lot of other 10th gen laptops outright block this. There are decent specs inside which can take on pretty much any workload, and obviously the mini LED screen is next level when compared to what other screen technologies are able to offer. You don't have flicker or burn-in issues like with OLED, and it's brighter. Though it's not perfect as it's still backlit, so no perfect blacks. But the extra contrast and brightness from mini LED is what makes the Creator 17 unique. So I really think it comes down to how much you want that screen, which is arguably one of the most important parts of a laptop designed for content creators. As there are not currently any other mini LED laptops available, if this is something you're after, MSI's Creator 17 is the only option for now. Let me know what you thought about the MSI Creator 17 laptop down in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, consider getting subscribed for future laptop reviews and tech videos like this one.